seems to have slept for a century. Waking up in a daze, Xiao Ming has a headache, and what catches his eye is the white gauze tent and the red lacquered wood carved room. "Aren't you dead?" Xiao Ming muttered to himself. The explosion of the laboratory seemed to be frozen in front of him. Sat up, the purple embroidered brocade was slipped off, and his body was similar to the white shirt and cloth pants in the costume drama. Strange. What is this? Propped up his body and wanted to get out of bed, a white and slender hand made him cock in his heart. It was definitely not his hand. In panic, he raised his hand and touched his facial features. His heart was cold. He was not him. His Royal Highness, why are you getting up? There was a slender voice, and then a young girl in a green dress came in from outside with a respectful expression. "Luluo?" The name was spoken naturally, and a series of memories suddenly erupted like a volcanic eruption. In an instant, he already understood his identity. "My own name is also Xiao Ming now, but this Xiao Ming is the 7th prince today, and his place is a place called Dayu State. This world was basically the same as the history he was familiar with before the 3 kingdoms, but the history after that was a mess. And now he does not know that the Great Yu Kingdom is equivalent to that dynasty. If you have to compare, you can only say that it is the scientific and technological living standards of the Ming and Song dynasties in the 17th century. As for the rest of the world, he doesn't know it. After all, this is a place where information is blocked." Pass through, Xiao Ming had to accept this fact. Fortunately, he seems to be a prince and has his own fief. Unfortunately, his fiefdom seems to be the most barren, far from the capital of Chang'an. And the most terrible thing is that outside Kangzhou, the northernmost side of the fief, is the vast grassland of the prairie barbarians. It can be said that his fief is likely to be occupied by the barbarians at any time. Not only that, Xiao Wengshuan, the emperor of the kingdom of Great Yu, is very old, but the prince is weak and may be abolished at any time. This basically means that the crown of the crown is pending. Because of this, the princes fought openly and secretly, and they all wanted to kill each other. Although he was in a remote fief, he was also a prince after all, and couldn't escape this fate. The reason why he was sent to such a remote place was naturally because he didn't like the emperor. At the same age, he was rushed to this place at the age of 13. In the past 5 years, Xiao Wengshuan has never had an edict to ask him to go back and save relatives. The 6 princes who were 1 month older than him are still staying in the capital city of Chang'an. The minister repeatedly advised the 6 princes to be the domain of the 6 princes, but the emperor disagreed. Except for the 6 princes, the 2nd princes, the 3rd princes, and the 4th princes are all in Chang'an. There is only one fief of the 5th prince like him, but the land of Shu is much richer than him. After thinking about it for a moment, the reason why he was treated so hard seemed to be because his mother did not have any gentry background. The other princes and princesses are more or less related to the current 5 surnames, Qiwang and Dayu. If you are not likable, you are not likable. If you are okay, you have to recognize a dad. He is in a fief and is happy. Just said so, but Xiao Ming's life in the fief was very sad. Not to mention the lack of fiefdom materials and the decline of people's livelihood. What is important is that these materials are still in the hands of the local rich and powerful. These wealthy families cover the sky with their own hands in the local area, and there are even people who only know the wealthy family and don't know what King Qi said. Xiao Ming is faint and naturally does not understand these hazards, but he is clear and has similar interests. These rich people are obedient dogs, and their interests are contrary to them. They are cannibal tigers. After clarifying the current basic situation, Xiao Ming sighed, and now he seems to be living in dire straits. But thinking of the reason for his crossing, he suddenly raised a glimmer of hope. At the moment the laboratory exploded, the experimental technology spar seemed to hit him directly, and when he was asleep, he always felt that the spar seemed to be in his consciousness. This technology spar is a kind of energy crystal. It is said to come from prehistoric civilization. During the experiment, not only a large number of black technologies were discovered, but researchers also injected all kinds of knowledge of contemporary humans from ancient times to the present. The purpose of this experiment is to make people's consciousness and technology spar perfect fusion and create a civilization maker. From the secrets he learned, he can fully grasp the technology library and the technology spar once the technology spar is integrated. In addition, people who integrate technology spar can also transfer knowledge to others. This knowledge transmission method, similar to inheriting memory, can allow others to have limited scientific and technological knowledge and allow a civilization to rise quickly. With excitement in his heart, Xiao Ming felt the technology spar in his mind, and the huge amount of knowledge instantly fell down like a mountain. Every piece of scientific and technological knowledge from ancient times to the present, all-inclusive literary works, the manufacture of every industrial product, the production of every material, and even advanced black technology. Civilization maker, earn. Originally, he was a little bit self-blaming about his ruined fiefdom, and Xiao Ming suddenly became excited now. As the name suggests, a civilization maker is a person who can build civilization from scratch. This function is too suitable for him now. Now his fief is poor and white. With the technology spar, he can develop various tools to increase productivity. Using these tools, he can master a lot of resources, and then he will truly control the fief in his hands. Otherwise, these rich and powerful people will be a hidden danger after all. With a clear goal in his heart, Xiao Ming smirked. Your Highness? Your Highness? Xiao Ming's silly smile made the maid named Luluo frightened. In the past 2 days, King Shi was seriously ill. If he got sick, none of them could survive. Although King Shi is not favored, why? Said he was also a prince. Thinking of this, Luluo felt sad in her heart and couldn't help sobbing in a low voice. Father, mother, daughter, I'm sorry. I can't give you all the filial piety. Xiao Ming, who was immersed in his own fantasy, was disturbed by Luluo's cry. He returned to his mind and looked at his personal maid, who was 18 years old and beautiful and beautiful. In memory, his 2 maids, Lulu and Aster, were given to him by his mother, Zhenfei, a few days ago. As for the purpose, it is self-evident that this kid has been holding bad water since he was a child. But until now, Xiao Ming seems to have not touched this maid. It's not that Xiao Ming is Liu Xiahui. It is just because it hasn't been 10 days since Luluo and Zixuan entered the Qi Palace, and he died before he could bear it. Why cry? I'm not dead! Xiao Ming knew what Luluo was worried about. Although she had only been in the house for 10 days, Luluo had a very timid personality. Luluo was so scared that she immediately put away her crying like a mosquito. Slavish servant, the servant thought that your royal highness has hysteria. This hysteria means neurosis and mental problems, and there is a saying that ghosts and gods are possessed in Dayu. Xiao Ming gave Luluo a blank look. What are you thinking about? If you have this time, it's better to let this king check your health. Examination of the body? Your lord, what is the examination of the body? Luluo asked in confusion, blinking with her eyes wide open. The former Qi Wang Xiao Ming was timid and weak, and his temperament was surly. This was one reason why the emperor did not like him. But Xiao Ming didn't intend to imitate the character of his predecessor. No need. Who made him the emperor of the earth in the fief? Moreover, Xiao Ming has always been casual and unrestrained. He has a bold and unethical character, so he can't bear to play a person of the opposite character. Since he knows the relationship between him and Luluo is like Jia Baoyu and Shiren, he can only secretly delight in this era. More than 20 years of engineering dog-monk career in this world can finally write a big end. Examination of the body means to look closely at each other and observe the physiological structure by the way. Xiao Ming grinned. Luluo burst into tears and smiled. When will your highness see a doctor? I understand this, but what is the physiological structure? This is going to be discussed in depth. Come, sit here. Xiao Ming pointed to the edge of the bed, smiling like the strange uncle who lured the little girl with a lollipop. His Royal Highness! Luluo took a step back suddenly and said with a crying voice, "The slave maid's status is humble. How dare you sit on the jade bed of His Highness? If Pang Changshi knows, Luluo will not be free of punishment." Pang Changshi. The name Luluo made Xiao Ming frown. This long history of Pang, whose real name is Pang Yukun, is the long history of the Qingzhou Metropolitan Governor's Mansion. In layman's terms, he is his master strategist and secretary. When he was in the fief of the domain, Pang Yukun was appointed by the emperor to follow him, and the purpose of his follow-up is also very clear. The better point is to teach the preaching to solve puzzles, and the unpleasant point is to monitor him and give a small report to the emperor. In Xiao Ming's memory, this Pang Yukun was a person that he hated extremely. Xiao Ming's emperor, Xiao Wengshuan, was extremely shrewd, and the long history he sent was a nerd among nerds. Generally, people like this have one characteristic. They are rigid and lack of heart, and they are loyal to the emperor. If there is anything in the fief that Xiao Ming can't see, he will immediately give a small report, and then Xiao Wengshuan will write to him and scold him. Although this Pang Changshi was aimed at his predecessor Xiao Ming, he now had to face it, and the disgust in his memory made Xiao Ming suddenly disappointed and somewhat dull. Glanced at Luluo obliquely, this girl's little hand was desperately clutching the corner of her clothes, her expression panicked, as if she had done something wrong. Xiao Ming suddenly realized that this little maid had deliberately moved out of Pang Changshi. Self-reflection, he was indeed a little anxious just now. I am afraid it was frightening her too, although it was the handmaid he wrote to Zhenfei asking for, but Zhenfei means between the lines. Luluo and Zixuan begged her bitterly, but Zhenfei felt sorry for her son, so she sent them away and asked him to treat them favorably. They were reluctant. A cooked duck can't fly. Besides, Xiao Ming is not a good person, but he is not a bad person either. He doesn't bother to do things that bully men and women. In this case, he can only grow up slowly, and he said, "Retreat. This king is going out for a walk." Luluo sighed slightly. She didn't know that Xiao Ming could see all her thoughts clearly. Actually, he doesn't blame him. Xiao Ming was a sensual dog in Chang'an before. He was scared when everyone saw him, and he was worried when he saw a dog. In the past 5 years to the fief, it has not stopped. That's why Pang Yukun kept typing small reports. The pile of small reports by Xiao Wengshuan is estimated to be enough for the entire Daiyu Palace to wipe the floors for a day. These Xiao Ming's misdeeds, it is impossible for her to wait in front of Zhenfei to not know. So, she was afraid of Xiao Ming from the heart. Xiao Ming was about to go out. Luluo took the clothes and said, "Your Majesty, the slave and maid are waiting for you to dress." I wanted to say that I don't have to. Engineering dogs usually do laundry and cook by themselves, and they have strong hands-on skills, but when the words came to their lips, Xiao Ming changed his mind. Since I have arrived in this world, it is still necessary to go to my hometown to do what is customary. The performance is too different. Maybe Pang Yukun sent a small report on His Royal Highness has hysteria today. At that time, Xiao Wengshuan, the old fox, would probably take back his fief without stopping. However, Xiao Ming is still very strange about the issue of fiefs and vassals. Although the history of this world has changed from the 3 kingdoms, the question of the vassal prince should still have the lessons learned from the Han Dynasty. Generally speaking, an emperor with a sober head would not be happy to see the existence of a prince. But in the country of Daiyu, entrusting the vassal prince is a common thing. After carefully recalling it, he found the reason from the small amount of historical information that Xiao Ming had. After the three kingdoms, the power of the noble clans became stronger than ever, and these famous clans with money, food, and people have played an extremely important role in subsequent history. The dynasties changed, and the gentry clansmen always pushed history forward like an invisible hand. The first three dynasties, Zhou, Chu, and dynasties lasted for more than 1,000 years. In each dynasty, there were emperors trying to suppress the clansmen, but the result was that these emperors quickly met their ancestors, or the country was in trouble. In the late dynasty, there was even a melee of more than 20 countries, and the figures of noble clans could be seen in these 20 countries. Until the establishment of the Great Yu Kingdom, the great ancestor Xiaoyuanji laid down the Great Yu with the help of the 5 prominent families. But Xiaoyuanji made a mistake at the place where he started his troops. So when the Great Yu Kingdom was established, Xiaoyuanji made a big stroke and entrusted the Kui clan King Yan, Li clan King, Zheng clan King, Qinghe Kui clan King Huainan, Zhao clan King, and Nanyang Shao clan Runan. There are 6 kings with different surnames. Although the Nanyang Shao family has the same surname as the royal family, they are not the same family at all. Xiaoyuanji's stroke is certainly cool, but the next emperor will be sadly reminded. These 5 surnames and Qiwang are originally the big clan in the region, and now they are even more powerful. In his twilight years, Xiaoyuanji also realized this problem, saying, "The world is so big that it must build a vassal screen, defend the country, and live the people. Now that the lords are long, they should each have noble titles and divide the countries. Non-private relatives, it is the system of the ancient philosophers and kings, which is the plan for long-term peace and long-term governance." This opened the prelude to the entrustment. Drink poison to quench thirst. Xiao Ming can only comment on Xiaoyuanji in this way. Xiaoyuanji's purpose is very clear, is to let the royal lords contain the kings of different surnames and prevent their rebellion. UU reading, www.uukanchu.com. However, it seems that the effect is not bad at present, and the country of Dayu is generally in a state of balance. It is precisely this kind of juggling between the clans and clans that the technology of Dayu is basically at the level of the late Tang and early Song dynasties. The potential threat of the clans makes every member of the royal family feel jealous. Unfortunately, his fief is also the same. The economic lifeline is basically controlled by these clans. It's really not easy to survive in this world, Xiao Ming sighed. Purple peony embroidered round-neck gown was added. Xiao Ming stood in front of the bronze mirror with a long body and a slightly handsome face. This is who he is now. Stepped out of the sleeping hall, and the soft sunlight in the morning rushed in. The fresh air gave people a sense of soul sublimation. The sky is pure blue like a sapphire, and the blue is intoxicating. Under the steps, a pebble path winds to a stone bridge. On both sides of the stone bridge are gourd-shaped ponds. Willow trees sway along the pond, green bamboo are shining, and a delicate view of the garden. Opposite the pond, a row of black tiles and red walls have jagged corner beams and staggered teeth. The neat red lacquered wood under the corridor supports the entire building. The only thing in my memory is the picture, which is similar to a movie, but seeing it with my own eyes is a different feeling. Xiao Ming has only now strongly realized that he has really crossed, and this dynasty is called Dayu. "I'm here, Dayu," Xiao Ming said silently in his heart. "Here will be his fief, his home. He must completely control this place in his own hands, and the first target that hinders him is the local wealthy family, which is also his first goal to settle. His Royal Highness has recovered from a serious illness, so he should stay in bed and rest." There was a rush of footsteps, and Xiao Ming saw an elderly man with round head, big ears, and a blue round neck gown trotting over and bowing in front of him. This person is Chen Dafu, the housekeeper of the palace. In his palace, he takes care of most of the affairs. Xiao Ming trusted Chen Dafu very much. Before he came to the fief, Chen Dafu was his mother Zhenfei's most trusted guard. Zhenfei sent him to Xiaoming to have a servant who can safely support her. Why do you wish? Xiaoming waved his hand. I have a carriage and I am going to Qingzhou City. This ... Chen Dafu hesitated, but he knew that the prince had always been surly and didn't dare to disobey, so he summoned his servant to prepare a carriage for Xiaoming. Xiaoming walked to the main entrance of the palace. A slightly old carriage had been parked at the door. The carriage on the carriage was small, like a box. Such a shabby carriage is a bit incompatible with the status of King Qi, but Xiaoming knows that the current financial resources of the palace can only be so. His current fiefdom has 6 states under his jurisdiction, namely Qingzhou, where the metropolitan government is located, Laizhou and Dengzhou on the peninsula to the east, Yizhou to the south, Kangzhou to the north, and Yanzhou to the west. The land of the 6 states seems to be a lot, but in fact the land is not big. The 5th prince, Xiao Quan's Shu land, governs 16 states. Relatively speaking, he belongs to the poor peasants. And none of these 6 states are wealthy. According to the classification of Shangzhou, Zhongzhou, and Xiazhou in the Great Yu Kingdom, only the Shenzhong state, which is counted as Qingzhou, where his palace is located, is Xiazhou everywhere else. There is a big difference between upper, middle, and lower, basically equal to the difference between municipalities, prefecture-level cities, and county-level cities. Especially Kangzhou in the north is patronized by barbarians on the grassland every year, and even some barbarian cavalry will go deep into the fief. 3 years ago, the barbarian cavalry kept looting until Dengzhou. The people of the fief were poor and weak, and they couldn't farm with peace of mind. Naturally, they would not be able to collect taxes. In addition, he still had the army and officials in 6 states to support, so the finances of this fief would not be mentioned. Although the former Xiaoming was stubborn, he was also aware of the situation of his fief. If the concubine Zhen didn't give him a little silver every year, he might really drink the northwest wind. After leaving the palace, the carriage walked slowly along the streets of Fengjian in Qingzhou City. Xiaoming opened the curtains of the carriage and carefully examined his fief. Qingzhou City is 20 miles from north to south and 20 miles from east to west. There are 4 gates in total. The city is divided into 36 districts. There are 2 bazaars on the east and west sides, namely the East Market and the West Market. This area is similar to the structure of the current residential area. There is a wall with some residential buildings scattered inside, but each area is the same size, as if tofu blocks are placed in a box. The King of Qi is here! Go! Go! The carriage passed a private square, and the 3 youths who were basking in the sun got into the square with fright. Xiaoming gave a wry smile. These were all the people who were afraid of being bullied by Xiaoming. But now, he is not concerned about this, but the worn-out, patched clothes on them. Through the vision of a modern person, the people he saw were basically similar to beggars. When he arrived in the East City, Xiaoming stopped the carriage and walked towards the market with his hands behind his back. Chen Dafu immediately followed it carefully, patrolling around vigilantly. The East and West markets are similar to modern vegetable markets. All the way, Xiaoming saw very few products in the East Market, are basically wheat, soybeans, millet, clay pots, cloths, bamboo baskets, and other things, which are very different from the dazzling array of products in Chang'an City. After strolling in the East Market for a while, Xiaoming went to the West Market again, basically the same. Generally speaking, the people's livelihood is declining here. And this is the most prosperous Qingzhou city in his fief. After turning around all morning, Qinlei basically walked Qingzhou City all over the place. At noon, his stomach groaned. Had to go back to the palace for dinner. His Royal Highness, Lao Nu has specially prepared vinegared celery and steamed buns for you. After holding his stomach and being hungry for a long time, Xiaoming finally waited for lunch. In my memory, this kind of meal was pretty good. Just look at Chandafu rubbing his hands and rolling his apple to know how greedy he is. This is the reality of his fief. There is a serious shortage of living materials. It is not that he has no money, but he can't buy it if he has money. It is happiness to eat. This kind of food is okay to eat once in a while, but eating it every day is horrible. In fact, even though Xiaoming is a prince, he is very arrogant, but the standard of living is really not as good as the modern one. Xiaoming is hungry now. He usually eats boiled amaranth and boiled spinach. I want to eat stir-fried vegetables. I'm sorry, there are only vegetables and no oil. Today, this vinegar celery is also rare. Otherwise, the rich and powerful will bring it over as if it was a credit. Rare, rare. Xiaoming pretended to be very happy and ate the jealous celery with his steamed buns in tears. In modern times, what he hates is vinegar celery, but now it is a luxury to eat. I thought it would be enjoyable to cross over, but I didn't expect that the landlord's house would have no surplus. For the next 3 days, Xiaoming didn't idle either and went to the county near Qingzhou City. There was basically a soil embryo wall surrounded by several thatched huts. Not to mention the common people, there are many people who can't eat enough, and they can eat buns leisurely, which is already quite tall. On the way back and forth, he often saw people digging wild vegetables in the wild to satisfy their hunger. I arrived in Dayu overnight. Xiaoming didn't have any lofty ideals, but his own fief was so embarrassed, not as uncomfortable as the contemporary slums. When he was in school, he liked to play the game of territorial construction, watching his territory from barren to prosperous little by little, which is a kind of spiritual enjoyment. And now that he has a real fief, this fief is still so desolate, how can he bear it? Besides, the local tycoons are rampant, and the northern grassland barbarians invade at any time, which is a threat to him. It's a big talk for him to drive away the grassland man, but he has to do things about building fiefdoms, strengthening the city, refining soldiers and horses, and hiding wealth for the people. Otherwise, the local tycoons will be enough for him to drink a pot. Furthermore, even if it is not to remove the wealthy and stabilize the land, he has to work hard so that he can eat eggs every day and occasionally grill a kebab. Otherwise, wouldn't I come here and suffer? The 3-day inspection gave Xiaoming a basic understanding of the situation of his fief, and he also clarified the first problem he needed to solve. That is, farming. The majority of the people no longer farm for the rich. Only this can weaken the power of the rich and gather the hearts of the people. Ideal is plump. Reality is the backbone. Xiaoming still remembers when he went to school. This is the one thing his mentor said the most. Now he can only face the latter reality. Based on the current situation, his fief was impoverished. Basically not much different from primitive society, and most of the cultivated land was in the hands of the rich, and the people were mostly reduced to tools for the enslavement of the rich. Even if he has a text bar, it will be difficult to change here. And Xiaoming's memory clearly tells him that the great Yu country now seems peaceful, but the dark tide is surging and he doesn't have much time to waste. He is not a person who yells and kills, but he wants to defend his 1 acre 3/4 of land without being affected by the situation in the great Yu country. When his restless brothers and uncles cut their heads, he must build a fief. This is a contradictory issue. Construction is difficult but necessary. Clang! 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 Leaning on the stone bridge of the palace, thinking about the fiefdom, suddenly a rush of bells came from the direction of the city gate. Barbarian! Xiaoming's heart tightened. This bell sounds similar to the function of a beacon tower. It is a warning issued by the guards of the city to foreign enemies. Now that the bell sounds so fast, there must be barbarian cavalry. In Dayu, the tribes on the northern grasslands are collectively referred to as prairie man, which is similar to the Huns, Turks, and Mongolians in history. This grassland man plays the same role. That means coming to the central plains to looting every year when the horse is fattening in the autumn high and the grassland is the same. In Xiao Ming's memory, the grassland man never went deep into his fief 3 years ago, and he did not expect to come again this year. Recalling the crazy destruction of the 6 states under his jurisdiction by the grassland man 3 years ago, he still shuddered. He had to be afraid. In this era of cold weapons, the prairie cavalry came and went like the wind, with adept bows and horses, and had natural mobility advantages. The dilemma he faces now is the same as that of Xiaomi with a rifle hitting an airplane tank, and his 6 states can't make up 100 cavalry, so he can only passively defend the city. A kind of fear spread in Xiao Ming's heart. This is not a game. He will face real life and death, and there is no way out. At his feet is his fief, his home. Will you be afraid of death if you die once? Xiao Ming asked himself. He clenched his fist and shouted, "Great money! Get a horse! Money is rich." The voice fell, and it took a long time for Qian Dafu to drag his round body. He ran over in a panic, panting, "Your Majesty, the horse is ready, and I will take all the silver pieces that I can take away. The bell is from the north gate. Come, we still have time to escape from the south gate." Xiao Ming felt dizzy, feeling that he was just about to escape. "Asshole, as the king of Qi, how can I abandon the people and run away alone?" Xiao Ming scolded, kicking Qian Dafu's. With the opportunity, kicking Qian Dafu staggering. This is something Xiao Ming used to do when he gets angry, and he consciously uses it. Qian Dafu squeezed his small eyes with a look of stunned expression. "Isn't this Qi Wang's style? In the past, I didn't say that the barbarians arrived in Qingzhou, but only said that they might come." The prince shouted to escape back to Chang'an. He escaped once 3 years ago, but Xiao Wengshuan took a whip to take a meal in Chang'an, saying that if Xiao Ming escaped again next time, he would personally kill him. Thinking of this, Qian Dafu suddenly thought that Xiao Ming was afraid to go back and was a dead word. Since concubine Zhen sent him to King Qi, the only task that concubine Zhen gave him was to protect King Qi Zhuquan. He said, "His Royal Highness, we don't need to go to Chang'an, but we can always hide in the fief of King Wei." The King Wei mentioned by Qian Dafu is Xiao Wengshuan's 3rd brother and Xiao Ming's uncle. The fief of this uncle is south of his fief. When he was entrusted, this uncle did his best to stop the barbarians' first line of defense. Xiao Ming is an idiot, and he knows that the 3 emperors are unreliable. It can be seen that Qian Dafu is also in a hurry to go to the doctor. No, I'm going to the tower." Xiao Ming has settled down. In such a backward place, people are production resources. If people lose their hearts, they don't mention building a fief. No matter how much they create, they will be the enemy in the future. With horror written on Qian Dafu's Dayuan face, he immediately sat on the ground, holding Xiao Ming's thigh, and cried, "His Royal Highness, think twice. This sword has no eyes. If there is a mistake in your highness, how should the old slave explain to the Empress? Wealthy money, you are still the guard of the concubine. You are so timid and fearful. How can you help me achieve a great cause? Are you the steward of the palace like this? If the fief is gone, do you and I still have a place to stand?" Xiao Ming scolded. "His Royal Highness?" Qian Dafu was stunned. Since he followed King Qi, he has never heard of a great cause from Qi Wang's mouth. These words are, at most, the handsome girls of whose family, how prosperous Chang'an is, and how barren the land is. Things like that. Now Xiao Ming's generous speech today makes him feel deafening. Xiao Ming shook off Qian Dafu and walked straight to the gate of the palace. This pretends to be cool. The next thing is to pretend to be a thunderstorm. Xiao Ming's small heart is thumping. Ukonshu.com is not nervous, that's bullshit. Wait. At the door, Luluo was waiting at the door with a package on her back. Next to her was a girl in a purple dress. This was Aster. Compared with the green dill, It is like the water town in the south of the Yangtze River, the appearance of Xiaojiabiu, the jade skin of this aster, the weak willow and the wind, the oval face, the Danfeng eyes, and the eyebrows are quite a bit spicy. A few days ago, Aster just came back because he went out to buy, and then he arrived at the gate of the palace. I never thought that the barbarians would come one after another. His Royal Highness! Seeing Xiaoming, Luluo, and Zixuan leaned over, Pang Steward told them to flee to King Wei with King Qi. Xiaoming looked at the two handsome maids and said that it was a pity. I still don't know if I can come back. Without waiting for Luluo and Zixuan to react, Xiaoming touched the two's buttocks and rode straight to the north gate. Under the crowd, Luluo and Zixuan flushed with shame and anger. After recovering, Xiaoming had already got on the horse and left. Only then did Qian Dafu ran over and saw Xiaoming riding a horse from his back. He turned on his horse and was about to chase him. Luluo thought that Xiaoming and Qian Dafu were going to run away by themselves. They were so scared that their faces were pale, but Aster looked as usual and asked, "Steward Qian, are you going to leave our sisters?" "What left you, Your Highness doesn't know if you have hysteria. Now I am going to defend the city with the guards." "What?" Aster covered her mouth in surprise. She was more surprised than Qian Dafu. Luluo breathed a sigh of relief. Her eyes rolled round and round. "Can I be right?" Qian Dafu didn't care what the two sisters were thinking, so he chased them. Qingzhou City, North City. The barbarian cavalry of more than 30 people under the city was pointing at the city gate, laughing tauntingly from time to time. In the eyes of the prairie barbarians, the soldiers of the Central Plains were vulnerable, and seeing them would only scare them to stay in the city and dare not come out. On the wall, 300 soldiers stood in battle, with 20 bows and arrows full of longbows, ready to shoot the barbarian cavalry wandering outside the city. "Lieutenant Liu, King Qi is here." In the middle of the city gate, a 7-foot-long black-faced man in scales was watching the barbarian cavalry warily. This person is Lu Fei, the Qingzhou school Wei, who is in charge of Qingzhou soldiers. "King Qi?" Lu Fei sounded like Hong Zhong. "What is he doing here? It will really add chaos." Turned around, he had seen Xiaoming ascending the tower. The barbarian cavalry outside the city saw the luxuriously dressed Xiaoming, and there was a commotion. This was obviously a big man. One of the barbarian cavalry, reining in his horse and bending his bow, kept shooting at Xiaoming with a sharp arrow. Swish! The arrow of the barbarian cavalry just fell on the wall because it was too far away from the city gate, and the range was not enough. This arrow was just scaring Xiaoming. Xiaoming was very calm. The technological spar in his mind contained a lot of knowledge. Xiaoming knew the range of the ancient bow and arrow, so when the bow and arrow came, he didn't even hide. Lu Fei looked weird when he saw it. Today's King Qi seems to be a little different. "The last general will see His Royal Highness." Lu Fei bowed. "Don't take out these red tapes now. What's going on now?" Xiaoming asked. The fief belonged to Xiaoming. He was not only King Qi, but also the governor of the 6 states, equivalent to the position of commander-in-chief. This Luda was only the Qingzhou captain, and was under the management of Xiaoming. "Back to your highness, so far, only a group of 30 barbarian cavalry wandering outside the city and refusing to leave," Ruda said. Xiaoming raised his eyes and looked at them. These barbarian cavalry were wearing well-equipped scales and holding recurved bows in their hands. Sitting on their horses were tall and strong, like a good soldier. Compared with the barbarian cavalry, his soldiers wear worn-out armor, and the ice blades on the soldiers' hands are also rusty. Only the scale armor on Ruda's body is still a little higher. "Is there no news from Kangzhou?" Xiaoming used his powerful knowledge to analyze the current situation. "Everything is normal in Kangzhou." Strange. Since Kangzhou City has not been broken, how did this barbarian cavalry appear here? I am also surprised that Kangzhou City has a dangerous terrain and is the only place through which the Qinling Mountains can pass. If the barbarian invades, it will inevitably break Hangzhou City. Lu Fei answered with a weird heart. King Qi, who never asked anything, just asked the key in a few words. When Xiao Ming ascended the tower, he noticed Lu Fei's contempt for him, and he was irritated. Except Qian Dafu, who treats him as a prince in the entire fief, no one else looks at him. He deliberately said, "In this case, Lieutenant Lu might as well lead the soldiers to take down this barbaric and ask for clarity." Lu Fei's face turned green. His temperament was reckless, but he was not without his brains. His Royal Highness, Qingzhou City has a total of more than 30 riders. Although the number is quite large, we are definitely not the opponents of these barbarians. To die. Lieutenant Lu is afraid? How can the barbarian cavalry know how they appeared here without taking down? Xiao Ming said slowly. Lu Fei's face changed from green to red, and he argued, "It's just a futile effort." "The fire is also here, Xiao Ming, just to beat Lu Fei," he said. "Really?" "It might be impossible. His Royal Highness, this is definitely not a trifle." Lu Fei felt that King Qi was crazy. The barbarian cavalry under the city didn't seem to intend to leave immediately. Xiao Ming said to Lu Fei at this time, "Go and call Chen Bingchao." Lu Fei didn't dare to defy, otherwise the Qi king made him go out of the city to fight again, but he would die. After a while, a thin man in a green robe and official uniform appeared on the tower. "Is there any tribulus terrestris?" Soldier Cao is an official in the governor's mansion who specializes in weapons and food. The most effective way to deal with cavalry is to turn them into infantry. This iron tribulus is specially used against cavalry horses. Chen Bingcao showed a look of embarrassment. His Royal Highness, yes, but not many, only more than 30. "More than 30! What do you Soldier Cao usually do?" Xiao Ming said angrily. Chen Bing and Chao smiled bitterly. "His Royal Highness! It is not that the officials are lazy. It is really a clever woman who cannot cook without rice. The craftsmen of the Department of Equipment do not have enough iron and briquettes to repair and manufacture weapons." "Really so poor," Xiao Ming was almost mad. He said, "Now you find all the blacksmiths in the city." Then Xiao Ming turned to Qian Dafu. "Take out all the iron and bronze in the palace to the Department of Equipment." "Huh?" The muscles on Qian Dafu's face twitched as if his flesh hurt. Lu Fei opened his mouth and swallowed again. "Lieutenant Lu, you continue to monitor these barbarian cavalry. Seeing this, the barbarian cavalry seems to have eaten under our city before leaving." Xiao Ming glanced at the barbarian cavalry sitting on the ground. These barbarian cavalry didn't put them in their eyes too much. It was humiliating him. Although Qian Dafu hurts his flesh, he still collects the bronze cauldrons and iron utensils in the palace. All the 12 craftsmen in the city have arrived at the equipment department. Some handymen have begun to burn copper and iron. His Royal Highness, everyone is here, but some folk craftsmen don't know what iron bristle is and cannot forge it. Chen Bingcao said cautiously, "It's okay. This king will teach them personally." Xiao Ming showed a weird smile. Facing a huge dilemma, at least, he still has a technology spar. The technology library is only part of the technology spar. The most important function of the technology spar is to conduct knowledge. This kind of conduction is similar to magic, similar to Taoism, and similar to Daigo empowerment. Simply speaking, the technology spar integrated into consciousness can subtly input scientific and technological knowledge into other people's minds by connecting with other people's consciousness. Xiao Ming is equivalent to the central computer at this time. He can use his consciousness as a data line to import his knowledge into other computers, that is, other people. It's nothing but transmission and transmission, all of which is Xiao Ming's own initiative. So Chen Bingcao watched in surprise as Xiao Ming took the 7 craftsmen and talked a conversation. When he returned, the 7 craftsmen immediately engaged in forging. The person who surprised him, the iron tribulus cast by these 7 people, was even more standard and sharper than the iron tribulus made by the craftsmen of the equipment division. Is this still King of Qi? In Chen Bingcao's eyes, King Qi has always been the object of ridicule by others, but there seems to be something wrong now. Xiao Mingxiao's ambition was satisfied. He succeeded. By explaining this method to conceal the transmission of knowledge, these craftsmen thought they understood the manufacture of tribulus terrestris. However, these iron tribulus existed during the Warring States period, but they are actually very simple, just like a triangular nail.